Hey everyone, Newman here with 910, and today I'm going to show you how to take the stock off of an FX crown. This works for the FX crown Mark 1 and the Mark 2, and the FX crown Mark 1 that had the Picatinny rail. It doesn't matter what type of FX crown you have at this moment, it's all going to be disassembled the same. You use a few tools today. The synthetic stock and the walnut/laminate stocks, they're a little bit different. The synthetic stock uses, you need a 3mm Allen for each of these. For the walnut and laminate stock, you need a 3mm back here and then a 4mm for this one up here. So that was a 3mm. And if you have a walnut or a laminate, you need a 4mm. We obviously have a synthetic today, so I'm going to set the 4mm to the side. The other tool you'll need today is a 2.5mm and a 2mm. Okay, so the first step is to remove actually the accessories, which is the safety and the power wheel or the hammer wheel. You remove these two first because if you go to remove these two bottom ones that are holding the actual action into the stock, and it's just these two holding it on, you'll notice that whenever you go to take these off, it's going to be very loose and wobbly. It's going to be difficult to remove. So the first one we're going to take off is the safety right here. Obviously, you want to make sure the rifle is completely degassed and it is not cocked. So as you see here, I'm going to cock it and decock it. And that way we know 100% sure that it is not cocked. And obviously there's no barrel and there's no bottle. So, like I said, you need a 2.5mm Allen to remove the safety. And there you go, it's that simple. You will notice on the bottom of the safety, there's a very small O-ring that kind of holds the screw onto the safety or holds it in. Be sure not to lose that. Sometimes it stays down in the hole. That is very essential for your safety to be working. So we're going to set that to the side. Now we're going to flip the rifle over. And now we have the hammer wheel. The hammer wheel uses a 2mm. So a small screw right here in the middle. So you're going to want to set the stock down, take a 2mm, and remove that screw. Once the screw is loose, you'll be able to lift the wheel up. Please remember that there are springs and ball bearings underneath this wheel, so be very careful and lift it straight up. So you lift it straight up, actually one the ball bearing, and be sure to cover this hole when you flip it over. One the ball bearing stuck to it, be sure not to lose that. I'm going to grab it, I'm going to set it to the side. I'm going to set the wheel to the side as well. And if you'll notice, there's still one ball bearing right there. Use some sort of magnetic tool to grab that out. It is steel, so it will come out. The two springs are still down there. You don't have to remove them if you don't want to. Just be careful. If they are loose, they will come out, so just be cautious of that. Okay, the final step here is to remove the two screws. So for this one, since it's synthetic stock, they are both 3mm screws. Yours will be black. I've upgraded mine to stainless steel since this is a test gun. And you just loosen, you just take them right out. I have a custom bushing for my screw, so it stayed on. Your bushing will be a little bit more loose, so whenever it comes out, it will be two separate pieces. Yours will look more like this. Okay, set that to the side. And now that we got all the components taken off, now we can take the action and slide it right on out. There we go. We set the stock down, and now you have the action out of the rifle. Again, remember that you have these springs here, so be in constant reminder that they can fall out at any moment. If you want to, you can remove them. Typically, they stay in place, so just be mindful of them. Alright, so we're going to put it back into the stock now. It's just the same reverse process. You take it, you slide it in. You make sure that your gauges are lined up. You make sure your handle's lined up. You make sure your power wheel's lined up. And you make sure your safety's lined up. After you've ensured everything's lined up, flip it over, hold it against a table or such. You're going to put the rear screw in first. That's your bushing with the long screw. It's typically it's a 5x45 for the synthetic stocks, walnut stocks, and the Manelli laminates. The GRS use different size screws. You just take it and you just tighten it. You don't have to crank super hard. I would say, like, if you had to measure it, maybe somewhere between like 10 to 16 inch-pounds. Nothing super crazy. So there's that. Then your second screw, just drop that up front and tighten it down. Same thing again, nothing crazy, somewhere between 12 and 16 inch-pounds. It doesn't have to be very tight at all. Alright, then the next one we're going to do is the power wheel. So like I said, it's the true reverse faction. We're doing the power wheel next because it does have these springs, so we don't want to flip it over and be working on the rifle upside down to where those springs could possibly fall out. And remember, we have our ball bearings that we have to put back into place. So we're going to take that and very carefully set it down. And then we've got our next one. And set it into place. Remember, this is a very delicate operation. Please do not lose your ball bearings. And then lastly, put in the power wheel. It's easiest to put the power wheel onto the rifle with it being set to minimum, or if you have the 1 through 24 wheel, it'll be setting on 1 or 1 or 2, somewhere around there. That's because you don't want any interference with your hammer adjuster right here, and it's going to give you the most clearance inside. Take it, drop it straight down. Once you feel that you're lined up, take your 2mm and tighten that screw. This one's even less. This one would be less than 10 inch-pounds of force to tighten it, because you still want to be able to rotate. You can kind of feel it just get snug. You don't have to measure it out. Okay, so now that that's all nice and snug, we can flip it over. Grab our 2.5 and our safety. As you can see, there is a straight slot for the safety to set into. The straightness of the safety to set into. So this is set to fire right now. So we're going to drop in facing fire. And you can feel when the safety presses into it. And then you just tighten the screw. You can feel it compress against the O-ring. And that's why it's still, again, it's probably maybe 10 inch-pounds, if that. If you do it too tight, it's going to be a very grindy safety. It's going to be not very nice. If you do it too loose, it's going to be very wobbly. So obviously you don't want it too tight or too wobbly, so you want it just right. So just snug against the O-ring to have a nice, smooth, crisp safety. Okay, so we've shown the disassembly and the reassembly of the FX Crown stock, as in taking the stock off the rifle and putting it back on. Just an overview for the walnut and Manelli laminate stocks. You will need a 4mm, and I believe you'll also need one for the GRS stock. For the synthetic stock, you need a 3mm, and then for all the stocks, in order to take off the safety, you need a 2.5mm, and then to take off the power wheel, you will need a 2mm Allen key. So there you have it. If you have any comments or questions, please leave in the comment section below, or you can email me at info@910airguntuningandrepairsllc.com, or feel free to stop by the website 910agtrllc.com. All right, happy shooting.